The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon or good morning, everybody. This is Josh Ellsworth with Stahl's CAD Cut Direct, and today I'll be delivering the presentation, Dynamite Sales Strategies, Creating Prize Customers, a great garment graphics webinar. Appreciate everybody that took the time today to log on to the presentation, and hopefully you find some information here useful and helpful to growing your business. In this webinar, we're going to explore basically the right steps to create new customers, prize customers, that we believe will deliver big returns to your business. We're going to talk about how to your profile, your ideal customer, who to prospect, and basically how to succeed in the critical infant stages of customer development and a customer relationship. And this is the second webinar in our Dynamite Sales Strategies series, so I'm going to launch a poll question to see who has joined us in our original webinar. So the question is, did you attend the last Dynamite Sales Strategy webinar? And the particular topic of that one was the art of the upsell. See how many return folks we have on here versus new folks. 62% have voted. All right, go ahead and close this. Great. So it looks like 36% of folks attended the last one as well, so thank you for coming back to the second session, and 64% did not attend the last session. So in case you don't know, all the Great Garment Graphics webinars are recorded, and they're in an archive on the greatgarmentgraphics.com website, and you can find the one from last month there as well, which I think will be beneficial to you. So in this particular session, Dynamite Sales Strategy, Creating Prize Customers, what we're looking to focus on here is basically finding the prize customer sweet spot. And that means we want to find some key indicators and ways to identify the ideal customer profile for your business. Now, there are a number of ways you can break down your current customer base if you have an existing business, or if you have a new business. This may be a little tough for you until you establish some history, but possibly you can take some of the data that will be shared here today and find some new markets to go after right away and set up your ideal customer profile before you even get started with prospecting and making sales calls. So here we've outlined a few key performance indicators and things we want to track from our current customer base to find out what customers are benefiting us the most. And some things that we'll want to look for in our customer base are we'll want to log annual sales volume for each customer. We're going to look at the total number of employees or players or members that that particular customer has, depending on how it relates to their business. One of the biggest things is recording the particular industry or market that that customer is in. And then the last thing that we'll take notice of is the sales footprint and whether or not that customer participates on a local level with the folks that it reaches, or if it's a regional or even a national size companies. Some of you may deal with worldwide companies as well, but really we just want the sales footprint and whether it's local business, regional, or national business. And I should mention as we go along through the presentation today, there's a questions box. So if you have any questions at all, I have it opened on my screen right in front of me, so feel free to type a question. It'll pop up for me, and I'll gladly answer them as time permits, which I think we'll have plenty of time today. It should be a relatively fast and effective presentation. So utilizing your data. Basically, in order for us to assign those four categories, the first thing we need to do is pull a report on our current customer base. And what I would suggest is pulling a 12-month sales report, possibly a report from your database that records last 12 months versus the previous 12 months, so you can get a good idea of which way customers are trending, what's new business, what is potential lost business, and what is growing business out of your customer base. And really from that list, we want to determine the top industries that are represented, or we want to look for fast-growing accounts and find out what industry they are located in. We also want to determine the annual spend per customer, if possible, the annual revenue, but that may be tough to come by, the number of employees and the sales footprint. So what I did prior to this is came up with kind of a mock list just for us to operate off of for the presentation today. Now keep in mind some of these business names are legit, but the sales numbers that are associated with them are completely fictitious just for the presentation today. So I'm going to pull up a simple 12-month list, and we're going to kind of dive in. Get my question box out of the way here. And get my highlighting tool. So the first thing I want you to notice from this list, it's pretty simple. We've listed customer name. This is what I'm encouraging you to get from your database. Hopefully you have access to this information. If not, start recording it. You want to have the customer name. You want to look at last 12-month sales, previous 12-month sales. Then obviously it's going to come out with a growth or decline number, how many dollars they're up or down. Here we have the total number of employees. If I expand this column so you can see. Total number of employees or members. The annual revenue, if you have that. I didn't put any in since this was just a sample report. The industry, and this is going to come down to you coming up with some different industries or markets that you want to identify, and then the sales footprint. Honestly, when I'm looking at our book of business at Stalls and looking at development opportunities in new markets, this is what I do. I compare the customer's sales for 12 months versus the previous, find out which customers are growing the fastest and why, and then I look at the markets that they participate in primarily and figure out if there's additional opportunities in those markets that we're not reaching. So as you can see here, I've sorted the report by sales growth or decline. So the first thing I want to look at is for fastest growing accounts. In this particular case, for this data, I listed this PNC Bank as one of the fastest growing accounts for this fake customer. And you can see that, of course, I'm going to just manually type in an industry. You can use SIC codes if you like, but I prefer to keep it casual and something I can understand. So I'm going to classify this one as the banking industry. So I'm identifying that segment, that opportunity in the banking industry as one of my fastest growing accounts. Next, we have the Uniontown Hospital here, and we can see we've recorded 12-month sales this year and didn't have any last year. So this is a potential new business opportunity that I drummed up or one of the sales reps drummed up. And you can look at the industry that we have signed there is medical. Likewise, you kind of go through and you get the gist of things. We have a Lakeside Party Center. I'm just filling out some ideas of different markets. Smithfield Youth League, which is a local little league, an Interact Club, a hotel, a jeweler, volunteer fire department. If you pull your customer list or even just jot down a list of your customers that you've dealt with over the past few months, you're probably going to have a lot of similar business types. And really what I'm looking for here is customers in different markets or repetitive markets that are doing quite well. Because what that's going to allow me to do is identify some trends, some potential new markets, and then I'll be able to take that market and take that particular customer name or type and dive in and figure out how to replicate it. So all in all, what I'm really trying to do is create my ideal customer profile and utilize the data from my database, from my reporting, and find out how to find more customers like this. So this just reiterates some of what I just said. The way to identify the prize customer is by sales dollars and also top growth. And then I have in parentheses there profit. Profitability is not something I reported out from my baseline numbers. If you have the ability to do that and understand what customers are at what profit margins and for what reasons, please do that. But what we're going to focus on is the market and talk about the sales markets that are growing for us and the growth opportunities, how to line up those customers, and then we're going to talk about in the critical infant stages of the development of new customers like this, how we can ensure that it's a profitable customer and profitable business, because I think you can impact that from now moving forward rather than shying away from unprofitable markets. It may just be the way you set them up originally for sales. So with that in mind, if you've ever done an exercise like this before and come up with your top 10 accounts, what I'd like to do is launch a poll question. I want you to think right now about the top 10 accounts for your business. Hopefully you know them, or at least a good portion of them. And I'd like to ask the question, a lot of these accounts maybe just came to you as a result of marketing efforts or word of mouth or something like that. But I'm curious to see how many of your top 10 accounts came from just outbound prospecting by you or a sales rep, where you went out, called on the account, and drummed up the business. So with that in mind, I'm going to launch the poll question. How many of your top 10 customers were the result of prospecting by you or a sales rep? And multiple choice, 0 of the accounts were a result of outbound prospecting, 1 to 3, 4 to 6 of the accounts, 7 to 10. And just be honest here, we don't know what information associates with what attendee. We're just trying to use it as a lesson. Hopefully you're having to count on both hands here. If not, maybe you just have effective marketing and do a good job and get lots of word of mouth, which is great too. All right, and 63% have voted. We'll give it 5 more seconds. And 75% have voted, so I'm going to go ahead and close that and share the results here. And I'm going to jot down these numbers. So 21% have prospected and lined up 0 on basically cold calls. 43% have lined up 1 to 3. 14% 4 to 6. And 21% 7 to 10. So a lot of disparity there, pretty good gap, but we can see the majority of our audience, which would be 64% of the viewing audience today, has 3 accounts or less. When you talk about how many have been lined up as a result of cold calls or prospecting. Nicole, I just want to mention to you, I don't know if you can see the question box, but I completely lost it here. So if questions roll in, if you can interrupt me and ask them, that would be appreciated. Okay, so with that in mind, let's take a look at how we can impact that number, how we can take these top accounts, identify trends, and how we can try to replicate them. So the first thing I want to do is go back here and talk about prospecting new prize customers. Now, you may have your own ways to prospect. I started in this business as a janitor, but I spent 10 years time in sales for Imprintable's warehouse, where I did a lot of independent prospecting and sales activities and did pretty well at it. So I'd like to talk to you about some of the tools that I've used in the past, and it's just some ways that you can use this top 10 account information to find new business. One of the newest tools out there with the internet, most of these are web-based, so they're very easy to use, is Yelp. And the big thing about Yelp that's really beautiful is that it focuses pretty much on local business, and it focuses not only on big business but also on small business. So it's basically a free list at your fingertips. So in order to properly utilize this to prospect customers, remember that top account was PNC Bank. So if I look at the growth that I've had in the banking industry on that particular account, and I say, wow, this lining up banks seems to be pretty profitable business. Maybe I'm selling polo shirts or T-shirts, or maybe a lot of promotional products for giveaways. There's all different types of things you can sell to these customers. But the thing is, I'm doing well with the bank. So I'll go to Yelp.com, and I have my local town that I live in here. And of course, you'll want to put in the town or the zip code that you live in, or the one that your sales rep's working in. And let's just type in the word bank and see what comes up. So basically, what I have here and on Yelp is a whole list, very easy to use list that has the address, city, state, zip code, and phone number for all the banks in my area. I can do a bird's eye view. I can do something within a 5-mile distance. I can sort it by banks and credit unions, most reviewed, whatever I want to sort it by. But all I'm trying to do is create a list here. You can see there's the PNC Bank that I used as an example. But I have a list of all these banks that I can now use as a targeted list. And we'll talk about how to create targeted marketing to niche markets or different industries in a moment. But first I want to show you some additional tools. So likewise, there was that was for the banking industry. Let's take another example and just say it was a jeweler. I had a jewelry company on there that did quite well. So let's just type in jewelry, I believe will work. And look, near Uniontown, Pennsylvania, I can find a whole list of different jewelers. Some of these are chains, but some of these are independently owned that probably make their own purchasing decision locally, but then I can make the sales calls to all these different jewelers. So it's just a great little tool to do some prospecting into different markets. And of course it works for restaurants and all different types of things, but it creates a nice qualified list for you to make cold calls on, or for you to do a mailer, postcard mailing or something out to. Now I see there's some questions rolling in, so I think I'm able to get my question box back here. Okay. No, I'm not thirsty. I don't know if you can hear my drinking. I'm not drinking anything, so I'm not sure what the interruption is that you're hearing. Hopefully everybody has that. Everybody is not hearing that, and that's pretty much the only question we got. Okay. So the next thing that the next way I want to talk about prospecting on that list was just through Google. So Yelp is one way to build a list, but I can also just go to Google, and if you go, just to the google.com, and then you click on the maps portion, it's particularly useful if you're prospecting business locally, and it works much in the same way as Yelp does, to where you can change the location based on zip code and prospect new local business. So if I'm looking for business in the industry of, hospitals, something like that, I can just type in hospitals. And there's the Uniontown Hospital that's right locally, but then it's going to give me the Highlands Hospital, and I can kind of drag around here to different radiuses and see what's around here. I live in a very rural area, so you're not going to get a lot, but depending on your area, your results may be more, and you may have different sales calls that you can make out to hospitals if that's an industry segment or category that does well for you. So that's Yelp. That's how to use Google Maps. Of course, you can use your the traditional way, and you can use Yellow Pages in the phone book or yellowpages.com. That works great. Common advertising venues is an interesting way to do it. So if your top customer is a jeweler, or a fast-growing customer is maybe like a daycare, and they ask them where they advertise. If they advertise in the local paper, open up the local paper, see who's advertising beside of them. And usually these common advertising venues is a nice way to pick up some top competitors of each other, and also some good prospect accounts that you can call on. Because ultimately it doesn't really matter. It's not like you're providing them products to compete with one another. This is just simple decorated apparel, signage, banners, whatever you're selling. It's a nice way just to find other accounts like ones that are succeeding. Likewise, Chamber of Commerce is always a good way to find a list, or a local visitors bureau. So for instance, if the hotel market was a big one for you, you can go to the local visitors bureau site. In this case, we just have laurelhighlands.org, and if our top customer on this list is, we have Days Inn Donegal, which is a hotel chain. If that's somebody new this year that didn't have sales last year, I want to find more like them. It's very easy just to pull a list, and there's all types of businesses that are advertising with your local visitors bureau, where you can pull lists and prospects to call on. Okay. All right. I think some people are getting some issues with the quality that's coming across. I'm not sure. I have a good connection here, so hopefully all aren't having the same experience. Hopefully it's limited. Nicole, are you able to hear me pretty well? I just want to make sure that everything's coming across okay.
Yes, you're fine, Josh.
Okay. Okay. Another good way to prospect is using LinkedIn or other social networking sites. And this one's particularly useful when you can engage or become part of the community. I really like utilizing LinkedIn, especially if you're in a city or metropolitan area. There seems to be groups and more individuals set up on LinkedIn in those areas, particularly the groups. So if you go to a LinkedIn, and hopefully you have your own profile set up already for yourself, but you can simply click the groups box and search different groups for your area. So there's not going to be anything for my small neighborhood of Uniontown, but if I want to search Pittsburgh, I can find greater Pittsburgh groups. If small business is a big area for me to develop, I can look at Pittsburgh Small Business Owners Group. You know, users create the group, so there's going to be different groups for each area. But the key thing is here is you can kind of immerse yourself, become part of a group of Pittsburgh small business owners, because you probably do own a small business, your decorated apparel company, and now you can go and drum up new business from all these other companies that are participating in the conversation on LinkedIn. And then the last way that I want to talk about prospecting is by new sales rep acquisition, the bottom one here. And this is particularly helpful if you can identify an area that you really want to go after from your list. So, for instance, if let's just look at our list with new sales rep acquisition in mind. If I'm seeing a lot of growth opportunity with hospitals or with the medical field, maybe I want to look at acquiring a sales rep that maybe at one point does pharmaceutical sales, somebody that's already has connections and contacts with the market that you're going after. If I want to call on a lot of small area local businesses and just general opportunities, maybe I'll pull up somebody that sells advertising for the local newspaper, or somebody that works for the Chamber of Commerce, or even for the Visitors Bureau. That's a good way to drum up local business through sales rep acquisition. If I want to increase my reach in places like municipalities, maybe I'd look for somebody that's a part-time volunteer fire department and have them operate on a commission basis to grow sales in that particular market. You know, it's of interest to them. If they're volunteer firemen, they probably have a lot of connections from the different events, and it was just a nice way to grow business in a niche if you see that there's opportunity there from your list. And that's a great way to develop businesses through sales rep acquisition from different markets. Okay. And then let's move along here. So there's a lot of different windows I'm juggling here. So after you figure out the target market that you want to go after, you figure out a list of prospects, I think it's really important to create targeted marketing by industry. This became apparent to me when we sent our sales reps out to sell into the outdoor display market, like tents and awnings. And they showed up with T-shirt samples showing our products on T-shirts. It just really didn't connect with the customer at all, that they could use our heat transfer films to decorate awnings and pop-up tents and banners and things like this. So likewise, when you're approaching a new business segment or a new market, it helps to have dedicated marketing pieces and specific samples. So if you want to develop business in municipalities, you probably are going to want to put some reflective material on a set of garments and use that as your sales samples. In some cases, you may have specific pricing that would be needed. So if a market's price sensitive, or if the volumes go up into a quantity that you normally don't produce at, you may want to come up with a specific price list to reach some of these markets that you'll be going after. And then the last thing I want to talk about today is profiting with prize customers, and that's getting things right at the point of engagement. And that basically means from the first conversations, the initial communications with customers, how do we make sure that we bring them into the business to make sure that we're making adequate profit. And really some of the pitfalls of decorators I've kind of outlined in the next slide here, and we'll go over those individually. One of those is having a price list and rules that equal profit. It sounds so simple, but really just having a defined price list and a defined structure based on volume, having that set up in a printed sheet of paper or published on your website, that is really going to help to prevent price negotiation and somebody shopping you as much, because your prices are set, you understand your costing and the prices that you're able to sell at, and that just makes it a lot easier to walk in and line up business that's profitable. You've done all your research on the front end, and you're not trying to price it on the fly. And that really just to help set the precedent with the customer at the point of the first sale and set it up for long-term success. The second one is art time is not free. As an industry, we have a kind of a history of giving away art for free. So if you're going to give it away, at least have a value associated with it. For instance, if you charge, $50 a half hour or $50 an hour to set up somebody's artwork, once again, I would have printed, published rates where you're going to charge art time. That way, if a customer has changing art every year where it's just not a corporate logo that stays relatively the same, but if they want to do different designs for garments or for a sports team or whatever, it's just there's a cost that's associated with that art that you're going to charge them. Also, speed has a value. Of course, everybody walks in, everybody has an order, and they want it tomorrow. And that's fine if you can produce it and carry inventory, but there's also a cost that comes along with that delivery speed. And whether you choose to charge for it, a certain percentage up for a rush fee or having products created within 5 days or 10 days, you just need to associate a value with delivery. You have your standard turn time and then charge for anything additional. That way you're not constantly under the gun and constantly getting beat up by a customer for faster deliveries without them expecting to pay any additional money. So these are just ideas on how to set things up on the front end. That way you're not stuck having all of your time tied up by customers that aren't as profitable as you would like them to be. And then put discounts to work for you. This is the last point on this particular slide. And what that means is I'd like you to have a discount structure in which it's working for you. So if you have the sale in hand, use a discount in order to upgrade them to the next item, to add something else to their order, upgrade to the next quantity, or give them a discount for their next order. Once you as a salesperson or your sales team has an order in hand, the worst thing you can do is reduce your profit margin by putting a discount on there just to be friendly. Sure, it's a notion that some people might respect and thank you for, and maybe they'll come back next time, but just make sure that when you're setting up a discount structure, when you're setting up rules for your sales reps, you want to make discounts work so you can get repeat business and maintain profitability. Okay, so I'm going to summarize things here, make sure there's no additional questions. Doesn't look like it. So in summary, in conclusion, and how to create ideal prize customers, basically you want to create a profile of your current customer base. Hopefully there's some ideal customers and market segments in there that you've already reached today where you just want to create a profile and try to duplicate those. You want to prospect new, similar business to the ones that are being successful, kind of your wheelhouse, the ones you do well with. You got the product on the shelf to service them, so why not line up more like them? You want to set up tools for new business creation. So these are the marketing pieces. These are the samples, special pricing if it's needed for a certain market segment. But you want to have the tools in place so when you start attacking these different markets, you have everything needed to call on all those banks on the Yelp.com website, and you can offer them something of value and start to bring in that business. And then you want to have rules in place to keep it profitable. So that's your price list, that's the discount levels that sales reps are able to utilize, and that's the turn times that you're willing to hit as a standard, along with what you would charge extra for rush delivery, etc. You can read about the next webinar that will be put on there on November 10th by Transfer Express. You can go to greatgarmentgraphics.com to sign up for that. It will be on November 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And we finished this one in about a half hour, so I'm going to stay on for a couple minutes here if anybody has questions. Otherwise, thank you for attending the session today. Okay, Nicole, not many questions today, so thank you everybody for coming on, and we'll see you on November 10th.